Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating and often overlooked coins in American history, the 1971 Lincoln 1-cent penny. This little copper coin, struck over half a century ago, might seem like just another ordinary penny you'd find in your pocket change, but hold on, because hidden among those regular cents are rare varieties and minting errors that could make a single coin worth an astonishing amount of money. Yes, we're talking about coins that could transform an old penny into a collector's dream find. So grab your magnifying glass, settle in, and let's uncover the full story behind the 1971 Lincoln penny, its history, design, and the incredible value it holds in today's coin market. Let's start by taking a journey back to 1971. The United States was in the middle of major cultural and political shifts. The Vietnam War was ongoing, space exploration was thriving, and the American economy was changing fast. The penny, a symbol of American commerce and history, continued to feature the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1971, this design had already been used for over 6 decades, becoming one of the most recognizable coins in the world. On the obverse side, we have Lincoln's right-facing bust with the words "In God We Trust" arching above his head, "Liberty" to his left, and the date 1971 accompanied by the D Mint mark just below his shoulder, identifying that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. On the reverse, we see the stately Lincoln Memorial designed by Frank Gasparro, introduced in 1959 to replace the wheat ears design. When you look closely, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated within the memorial. A small but powerful detail that connects both sides of the coin in tribute to the 16th president. Above the memorial sits the motto E Pluribus Unum, and encircling the rim are the words United States of America and 1 cent. The 1971 Lincoln penny was struck in a copper-based composition, 95% copper and 5% zinc, just like all cents produced before 1982. This gives the coin a rich reddish-brown color that deepens with age, creating stunning variations in tone depending on how it's been preserved. In total, the Denver Mint produced a massive number of these coins, over 2.9 billion. That's right, billions of them rolled off the presses that year, filling pockets, cash registers, and bank bags all across America. With that kind of mintage, it's no surprise that most 1971 pennies are worth just face value today. But that's only part of the story, because as collectors know all too well, not all coins are created equal. Amid those billions, a few rare and extraordinary pieces were struck with errors, variations, and exceptional quality, and those are the ones that collectors will pay huge premiums to. To understand why certain 1971 pennies are so valuable, we need to talk about how they were made. Each coin starts as a blank planchet, a small round piece of metal, which is fed into high-speed presses. The dies strike each blank with tons of pressure, imprinting Lincoln's image and the memorial on the other side. But sometimes the dies wear down, get doubled, or misalign slightly. And when that happens, magic, or in this case money, happens for collectors. One of the most famous types of error found on 1971 pennies is the double die. This happens when the coin die shifts slightly during preparation, resulting in a doubled image of the design. If you look closely at the date, mint mark, or lettering like Liberty or In God We Trust, you might see visible doubling, a clear sign that you have something special. Another notable variety is the off-center strike, where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't properly aligned during striking. Depending on how much of the design is missing, these errors can range in value from a few dollars to hundreds. Then there's the broad strike, when the coin's collar fails to engage, allowing the metal to spread outwards, creating a wider than normal penny. Die cracks, die chips, and cut errors, where pieces of the die break off, leaving raised blobs of metal, are also highly collectible when found on this coin. And let's not forget proof-like strikes and high-grade uncirculated examples, coins that were never released into circulation and remain in pristine condition with full red luster. These are among the most sought after by numismatists. When it comes to determining a coin's value, condition is everything. The grading scale ranges from poor P1 to mint state, MS70. Most 1971 Lincoln pennies found in everyday circulation fall somewhere between fine F12 and extremely fine XF40, meaning they've seen a lot of handling and wear. However, if you happen to come across a 1971 penny in mint state condition, particularly those graded MS65 or higher, you could be sitting on a small fortune. Coins that maintain their original red color and sharp details command the highest prices. For example, a 1971 D penny graded MS 67 red has sold for several $1,000s at auction, and even more if it's accompanied by unique die characteristics or errors. The highest values are achieved by coins certified by reputable grading companies like PCGS or NGC, which verify their authenticity and condition. Here's a fun fact: 1971 was one of the last few years when U.S. pennies were still made entirely of copper. After 1982, the composition changed to a zinc core with a thin copper coating, drastically reducing their metal value. That means each pre-1982 penny actually contains nearly 2 cents worth of copper today based on metal prices. Another interesting point: collectors have noticed small die variations in the shape of Lincoln's portrait, the size of the mint mark, and even the lettering thickness. These subtle differences add a layer of mystery and excitement when examining 1971 D pennies under magnification. Plus, because the Denver Mint was known for its massive production volume, die wear was a common issue, making crisp, fully struck examples much rarer than you'd think. That's why sharp detail and strong luster matter so much for this year. So, how can you tell if your 1971 Lincoln penny is valuable? Here are a few steps to follow. First, check the color. Collectors categorize copper pennies as red, RD, red-brown, RB, or brown, BN. The redder the coin, meaning it retains its original mint shine, the more valuable it tends to be. Next, inspect the date, mint mark, and lettering for doubling. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Even small doubling can significantly raise a coin's worth. Then, look for unusual edges, cracks, or extra metal bumps. These may indicate striking errors, which are extremely collectible. Finally, if you think you have something special, don't clean it. Cleaning can damage a coin's surface and destroy its collector value. Instead, handle it gently by the edges and store it in a protective coin holder or flip. Over the years, the 1971 D Lincoln penny has made its mark at coin auctions and collector markets. While many examples sell for modest prices, the rare high-grade and error coins tell a completely different story. Collectors are willing to pay thousands for pristine red specimens with near-perfect surfaces. In fact, some of the top-graded examples have fetched astonishing sums at professional auctions, drawing intense bidding wars between numismatists. As with all Lincoln cents, the legacy of Abraham Lincoln adds emotional and historical value. It's not just a piece of metal. It's a symbol of endurance, leadership, and American craftsmanship. The connection people feel to Lincoln's legacy helps sustain strong demand for his portrait coinage. If you're just starting your coin collection, the 1971 D penny is a fantastic entry point. It's affordable to collect in most grades, yet has plenty of potential for exciting discoveries. Searching through old coin rolls or inherited coin jars could reveal rare finds. Seasoned collectors, meanwhile, often focus on building complete sets of Lincoln Memorial cents, collecting one coin from each year and mint. Finding high-quality examples of the 1971 D can be a satisfying challenge. And for those passionate about errors, this coin offers a playground of possibilities. Double dies, misstrikes, and even off-metal strikes occasionally surface, keeping the hunt alive and thrilling. When you hold a 1971 D Lincoln penny in your hand, you're holding more than just 1 cent, you're holding a piece of history. It's a coin that links generations, from the industrial heart of Denver's minting presses to the pockets of millions of Americans who used it daily. Episode is about a coin that may look ordinary at first glance, yet it carries a piece of American history, the 1974 Lincoln 1-cent penny. If you have one of these pennies lying around, you might want to take a closer look because one version of this coin is worth far more than a single cent. In fact, a rare 1974 Lincoln penny could change your fortune in ways you'd never expect. Stay tuned as we uncover the amazing story, the history, the errors, and the unbelievable value that makes this coin so special. The 1974 Lincoln 1-cent coin is part of a long and proud tradition in American coinage. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, the penny became the first U.S. coin to feature a real person. And not just any person, but one of America's most admired presidents. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin carries Lincoln's noble profile on the obverse, symbolizing honesty, unity, and liberty. On the reverse, until 1958, you would find the 2 wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent. But by 1974, the design had changed to the Lincoln Memorial, a powerful symbol that connects Lincoln's legacy to the nation's ideals of freedom and equality. Now let's rewind to the year 1974. America was going through an important moment in history, the aftermath of the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal, and economic challenges that had people and politicians looking at every detail of government spending. One of those details was the cost of making coins, especially the penny. By this time, the rising price of copper had created a big problem. The metal in each penny was worth almost as much as the coin itself. That's when the U.S. Mint started experimenting with new materials to make pennies cheaper to produce. That experiment would go on to create one of the most famous modern coin stories ever, the 1974 aluminum penny. But before we talk about that rare version, let's take a closer look at the regular 1974 Lincoln penny that most people know. Details: the standard 1974 Lincoln 1-cent penny was minted in 3 major locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, marked with a small d under the date; and San Francisco, marked with an S. Most of these coins were made from 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing about 3.11 grams. The U.S. Mint produced billions of them, over 4 billion from the Philadelphia Mint alone, more than 4 billion from Denver, and several hundred million from San Francisco. With so many coins minted, you might think there's nothing special about them. However, even among these billions, there are rare varieties, unique mint errors, and special conditions that make certain 1974 pennies worth far more than their face value. Collectors' interest: collectors are always searching for coins in pristine condition, those that have never been circulated, showing their original luster and perfect details. A 1974 penny in mint state condition, graded MS 67 or higher by professional coin grading services, can fetch impressive prices from collectors. But that's just the beginning. The true excitement comes from rare minting errors and experimental versions. Error coins: one of the most fascinating things about the 1974 penny is that the U.S. Mint was testing different metals that year. Most people know about the standard copper version, but in early 1974, the Mint created a few experimental aluminum pennies to test if the new metal could be used instead. The aluminum versions were lighter, about 0.93 grams, and had a silvery appearance rather than the reddish-brown color of copper. About 1.5 million aluminum pennies were struck for testing, and the plan was to distribute them to members of Congress for review. However, before the plan could be finalized, the idea was scrapped. The Mint decided that aluminum coins caused too many problems, they wouldn't work well in vending machines, and they were hard to detect by metal detectors or sorting machines. After canceling the aluminum penny project, the Mint recalled all of the test coins and melted them down. But as the story goes, not all of them made it back. That's right. A few 1974 aluminum pennies escaped destruction and made their way into private hands. These coins became the stuff of legend in the numismatic community. The Mint considers them government property, and technically they were never officially released into circulation, which makes owning one a bit tricky. Still, a few of these coins have surfaced, drawing massive attention and incredible auction prices. The famous 1974 aluminum penny. In 1974, a San Diego police officer reportedly found one of these aluminum pennies, which had been given to him by a U.S. Capitol employee. The discovery caused a sensation in the coin world. Another specimen was found in the possession of a former U.S. Mint employee's family. Because of their rarity and the legal controversy surrounding them, the aluminum pennies became both mysterious and valuable. If you ever come across a silvery-colored 1974 penny that feels lighter than normal, do not spend it. It could be one of these ultra-rare pieces. Experts recommend immediately having such a coin authenticated by a professional coin grading service before attempting to sell or display it. Valuable varieties beyond the aluminum versions. There are also valuable error varieties from the copper issues of 1974. For instance, some pennies have double die obverse errors, where Lincoln's portrait, the date, or the lettering like "In God We Trust" appears slightly doubled due to a die misalignment during minting. These double die coins are popular among collectors and can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on their condition and visibility of the error. Another interesting variety is the 1974 S-proof penny. These were specially struck at the San Francisco Mint with polished dies and planchets to create mirror-like surfaces for collectors. A proof coin in pristine, untouched condition can be highly desirable, especially if graded Pure 70 Deep Cameo, the highest possible grade for a proof coin. Even among regular copper coins, a 1974 penny with full red luster, graded as RD by experts, can be worth many times its face value. Copper reacts to air over time, turning brown, so finding one that has remained bright red for decades is truly rare. Condition matters. Coin grading is the key factor in determining how much a 1974 penny might be worth. A heavily circulated penny might only be worth a few cents to collectors, but a coin preserved in mint state can sell for a lot more. Grading services like PCGS or NGC evaluate coins on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers indicating better condition. Coins graded MS67 or above, with sharp details and full color, can attract strong demand among serious collectors. Why collectors love the 1974 penny? The story behind the 1974 Lincoln penny is what makes it special. It's not just a coin, it represents a moment in history when America was changing, both politically and economically. It also symbolizes the experimentation and innovation that went into maintaining the nation's currency. Collectors love coins that tell a story, and the 1974 penny tells a story of challenge, adaptation, and a bit of mystery. For many, it's the thrill of the hunt that makes collecting pennies exciting. Imagine searching through your old change, your childhood coin jar, or a family collection, and suddenly finding a coin that could be worth a small fortune. That sense of discovery is what keeps coin enthusiasts passionate year after year. Tips for identifying valuable 1974 pennies. If you want to check whether your 1974 penny might be valuable, here's what to look for. Check the mint mark. Look under the date for a D, Denver, an S, San Francisco, or no mark, Philadelphia. Proof coins will always have an S. Inspect the color. A bright red penny is worth more than a brown or dull one. Look for errors, doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual metal colors are all clues that your coin might be special. Weigh your coin. A regular copper penny weighs 3.11 grams, but if yours weighs around 0.93 grams, it might be an aluminum test coin. Get it graded. If you think your coin could be rare, have it authenticated by professionals before selling. Market value and records. Over the years, collectors have paid huge sums for top-quality 1974 Lincoln pennies and rare varieties. Mint state copper pennies in perfect condition have sold for several $100s. Proof versions have reached even higher values, especially in top grades. But the crown jewel remains the 1974 aluminum penny, one of the rarest modern U.S. coins ever known. Each time one of these aluminum specimens appears, it stirs excitement in the coin world, because their existence represents a moment in American minting history that was never meant to be public. Some have been valued in the tens of thousands of dollars, while others have sparked legal disputes over ownership, only adding to their legendary status. We're diving deep into a fascinating piece of American numismatic history, the 1976 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a humble copper penny that has captured the attention of collectors for decades. You may have one of these coins sitting quietly in your change jar, but what if I told you that some of them could be worth thousands of dollars? Yes, this simple penny from 1976, the year America celebrated its bicentennial, holds more mystery, value, and history than most people ever realize. Stay tuned because by the end of this video, you'll learn how to spot the rare 1976 Lincoln penny varieties that could make you a small fortune, what makes them so valuable, and the jaw-dropping story behind their creation. Let's rewind the clock to 1976, a monumental year in American history. The United States was celebrating its 200th anniversary since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Across the nation, there were parades, fireworks, special events, and even specially designed coins to mark the occasion. The U.S. Mint released unique bicentennial designs for the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins, all featuring patriotic themes. However, the 1-cent coin, the Lincoln penny, kept its classic design. Abraham Lincoln still looked proudly to the right, his portrait unaltered since 1909, while the reverse side continued to showcase the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of unity and remembrance. Even though the 1976 penny didn't get a new design, it still became part of this historical era, and that alone gives it a nostalgic and collectible appeal. During this time, inflation was high, copper prices were climbing, and the U.S. Mint was still producing cents primarily made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. This was one of the last eras of the true copper penny, before the transition to the lighter zinc-based composition in 1982. That makes 1976 pennies especially interesting to collectors who love the sound, weight, and look of old-school copper coins. Now, the 1976 Lincoln cent was struck at 3 different mint facilities across the United States: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The coins from Philadelphia had no mint mark as usual. The Denver mint coins can be identified by the small d under the date on the obverse side, while the San Francisco mint produced proof coins bearing the S mint mark. Each of these mints played a role in creating slightly different versions of the 1976 penny, and that's where things start to get exciting. Most of the 1976 pennies in circulation came from the Denver Mint, with a massive mintage of over 4.2 billion coins. Philadelphia produced around 4.6 billion, while San Francisco made approximately 4 million proof coins intended for collectors. But among these billions of pennies, some rare varieties and errors emerged, and that's what transforms an ordinary 1-cent piece into a collector's dream. One of the most sought-after varieties of the 1976 Lincoln cent is the double die obverse. This error occurs when the coin die strikes the planchet twice at slightly different angles, creating a noticeable doubling of the inscriptions. On some 1976 pennies, you can see doubling on the words Liberty and In God We Trust. If you spot this doubling with the naked eye or under a magnifying glass, congratulations, you might be holding a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on its condition. Another interesting variety is the off-center strike. Sometimes the blank copper planchet wasn't properly aligned with the dies during minting, resulting in part of the design being missing or shifted. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the higher the value, as long as the date is still visible. Coins with a 50% off-center error and visible date can sell for impressive prices at coin shows and auctions. Then there's the die crack error, where a small break in the die causes raised lines or bumps on the coin. Collectors often call these cuds or cracks, and while they may look like damage, they actually make the coin unique and collectible. A prominent die crack running through Lincoln's portrait or across the coin's reverse can greatly enhance its desirability. And we can't forget about the repunched mint mark variety. In earlier years, mint marks were manually punched onto the dies, leading to occasional repunching or misplacement. Some 1976 D pennies show signs of a double D mint mark, which can be a rare and valuable find. When it comes to determining the value of a 1976 Lincoln penny, condition is everything. Collectors use a grading scale ranging from poor P1 to mint state, MS70. A heavily circulated 1976 penny, one that's worn and faded, will likely only be worth its face value. However, a coin in uncirculated or mint state condition can command much higher prices. For example, a 1976 D Lincoln cent in mint state 67 red, MS67RD, has been known to sell for several $100s, simply because of its perfect luster, sharp strike, and eye appeal. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint, especially those graded PR69 DCAM or PR70 DCAM, Deep Cameo, are also highly sought after by collectors. These coins were never meant for circulation and were struck with specially polished dies to create mirror-like surfaces. So, if you happen to find a shiny, flawless 1976 penny with blazing red color and no scratches or spots, it's definitely worth getting it graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. The grade can make the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth hundreds or more. Collectors are drawn to the 1976 Lincoln penny not just for its potential value, but for its story. It's a coin that represents a turning point in American history, a celebration of 200 years of independence. It also sits at the crossroads of 2 eras, the end of the solid copper penny and the beginning of modern U.S. coinage trends. Many coin enthusiasts keep 1976 pennies as part of their bicentennial collection, alongside the special 1776 to 1976 quarters, halves, and dollars. Even though the penny didn't get a new design that year, its connection to that patriotic time period makes it a sentimental favorite. For new collectors, the 1976 penny is also an accessible starting point, easy to find in circulation or coin rolls, yet full of discovery potential if you know what to look for. Here's another fascinating fact. Because the 1976 penny is made of 95% copper, its metal content alone is worth more than 1 cent. In fact, if you melted one of these coins for its copper, it would be worth over 2 cents just for the metal, though melting U.S. coins is illegal. Still, that gives you an idea of just how much intrinsic value these coins hold compared to modern pennies, which are made mostly of cheap zinc. This copper composition gives the 1976 penny a distinctive reddish-brown color and a satisfying weight that collectors love. Over time, the coin's surface can change shades, developing rich tones of orange, brown, or deep chocolate, adding even more character to each piece. If you're wondering where to find these valuable 1976 Lincoln cents, the answer might surprise you. They're still out there in circulation. You can start by checking your change, going through old coin jars, or searching through rolls of pennies from your local bank. Pay special attention to coins that appear slightly different, have doubling, or are unusually well preserved. Another great place to look is at coin shows, estate sales, and online auctions. Sometimes, people sell collections without realizing the hidden gems inside. You can also connect with other collectors through online communities, coin forums, and social media groups. Sharing pictures of your finds can help you get feedback and learn more about potential errors or varieties. Now let's talk about the exciting part. How much can a rare 1976 Lincoln 1-cent penny actually be worth? While common 1976 pennies might only be worth a few cents, those with rare errors, high grades, or special minting conditions can sell for astonishing prices. There are documented cases where pristine examples graded MS67RD or higher have sold for hundreds of dollars. And certain error coins, such as dramatic off-center strikes or double dies, have fetched even more. One particular 1976 Lincoln penny in near-perfect condition caught the attention of collectors and went on to sell for an incredible amount, making it one of the most sought-after examples of its kind. It's proof that even a tiny 1-cent coin, if preserved perfectly, can hold immense historical and monetary value. Beyond its market price, the 1976 Lincoln penny carries a powerful message. It reminds us of Abraham Lincoln's enduring legacy, a leader who guided America through its darkest times and helped define the nation's identity. It also stands as a small but meaningful tribute to 200 years of freedom, resilience, and progress. Holding a 1976 penny is like holding a piece of that history in the palm of your hand. We're diving deep into the story of one of America's most iconic coins, the 1977 Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it may look like just another old copper coin you might find jingling in your change jar. But what if I told you that some 1977 pennies could actually be worth a small fortune today? Yes, you heard that right. This humble 1-cent coin, with the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, holds secrets, history, and hidden value that could surprise even the most seasoned coin collector. So sit back, relax, and get ready to uncover everything you need to know about the 1977 Lincoln penny, from its creation and minting details to the rare errors and variations that make certain coins worth thousands of dollars today. Let's begin our journey by rewinding the clock back to the late 1970s. America was experiencing a time of cultural change and economic uncertainty. Inflation was rising, and the cost of metals was beginning to affect the production of coins. The Lincoln cent, which had been in circulation since 1909, had already undergone subtle transformations over the decades, but its legacy as a tribute to the 16th President of the United States remained untouchable. By 1977, the Lincoln penny had become a cornerstone of American currency, a coin so common that nearly every household in the country had at least a few. The 1977 Lincoln 1-cent penny was minted in 3 major locations across the United States: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint mark tells its own story. Coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint have no mint mark beneath the date. Coins from Denver carry a small D mark, and the ones from San Francisco bear an elegant S. While all 3 versions are collectible, the coins from Denver and San Francisco are often the most sought after due to their lower mintages and, in some cases, rare minting mistakes. Now let's talk about the design, one of the longest-running and most admired in American coinage history. The obverse, or front, of the coin features the famous bust of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909. This portrait was introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and it quickly became one of the most beloved designs in U.S. history. On the reverse side of the 1977 penny, we see the Grand Lincoln Memorial, which was introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look closely, you can even spot a tiny statue of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial, a beautiful and intricate detail that symbolizes unity, leadership, and the nation's respect for one of its greatest presidents. The 1977 Lincoln penny was made primarily of copper, 95% copper and 5% zinc. This composition gave it a rich reddish-brown tone that collectors find so appealing today. However, over time, exposure to air and handling can cause oxidation, which leads to a darker or spotted appearance. But don't worry, even tarnished pennies from this year can hold significant value if they contain rare errors or are in exceptional condition. Speaking of condition, that's one of the most important factors in determining a coin's worth. In the world of numismatics, condition can make the difference between a coin being worth a single cent or thousands of dollars. Collectors look at the luster, the sharpness of Lincoln's portrait, the clarity of the lettering, and the absence of scratches or wear. Coins that have never been circulated, known as mint state coins, are especially valuable. Some 1977 pennies graded as MS67 or higher by professional grading services can sell for astonishing prices due to their rarity and immaculate preservation. Now let's explore one of the most fascinating aspects of the 1977 Lincoln penny, its rare error varieties. Errors happen when something goes wrong during the minting process, and they're what make ordinary coins extraordinary. Among the 1977 pennies, several types of errors have become extremely valuable. One of the most famous is the double die error. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin imprints the design slightly off-center twice, creating a doubling effect on certain parts of the coin. On a 1977 double die penny, you might see doubling in the inscriptions like "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date 1977. These coins are very rare and highly sought after, with collectors paying premium prices to own one. Another valuable error is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet, the metal disc that becomes the coin, isn't perfectly aligned during the minting process. The result is a coin with part of the design missing, and depending on how off-center it is, the value can increase dramatically. Some 1977 pennies with off-center errors have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. There are also broad strike and clipped planchet errors, both of which can turn a common penny into a prized collectible. A broad strike error occurs when the coin is struck outside the retaining collar, causing it to spread out wider than usual. A clipped planchet error happens when the metal sheet from which coins are cut overlaps during production, resulting in a coin with a visible crescent-shaped clip missing from its edge. And let's not forget about repunched mint marks or RPM errors. These occur when the mint mark is accidentally punched into the die more than once, but in slightly different positions. A 1977 D penny with a repunched D mint mark can command strong prices from collectors who specialize in mint mark varieties. Now you might be wondering, just how many 1977 pennies were made? Well, the total mintage was enormous. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 4.4 billion coins, the Denver Mint struck around 4.1 billion, and the San Francisco Mint issued about 3 million proof coins made specifically for collectors. With numbers that high, it's easy to see why these coins are still commonly found in circulation today. However, even in such massive quantities, only a handful of coins have survived in pristine condition or with the kinds of rare errors that make them valuable. So, how can you tell if your 1977 penny is special? First, examine it carefully under good lighting or even a magnifying glass. Check for any signs of doubling in the lettering or numbers. Look for minting mistakes like off-center designs, clipped edges, or unusual patterns. If the coin looks particularly sharp, shiny, and uncirculated, it may be worth sending to a professional grading service for evaluation. Coins graded MS65 or higher often command much higher prices than those with visible wear. In recent years, the 1977 penny has gained even more attention among collectors, not only because of its beauty and historical significance but also because of the rising interest in older U.S. coins. As fewer and fewer copper pennies remain in circulation, especially after 1982 when the U.S. Mint switched to zinc-based pennies, the value of earlier copper coins like the 1977 cent continues to rise. Collectors love this coin for many reasons: its elegant design, its classic composition, and its connection to a pivotal era in American coinage. But what truly excites collectors are those rare examples that escape the mint with unique flaws or survived decades in perfect condition. Imagine finding a gleaming, perfectly struck 1977 penny in an old coin jar or tucked away in your grandfather's collection. A small but incredible piece of American history that tells a story of artistry, precision, and chance. Now let's talk about the market value and what makes certain 1977 pennies stand out. Common circulated coins are still worth only a few cents due to their high mintage, but as the grade improves, so does the value. Uncirculated or mint state examples can be worth several dollars, and rare error coins can reach into the hundreds or thousands. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents often pay significant amounts for coins that showcase clear and dramatic doubling or unusual minting defects. But among all the examples of this historic coin, there exists one truly remarkable 1977 Lincoln penny that stands far above the rest, a pristine mint-condition specimen that fetched an incredible price in a collector's auction. This extraordinary coin, with its flawless copper sheen and impeccable strike, was sold for a breathtaking amount, $32,240. Yes, you heard that right, $32,240 for a single 1-cent coin that most people would overlook. That's the magic of coin collecting. What might seem like an ordinary penny to some could actually be a rare treasure worth more than you ever imagined. So, the next time you come across a 1977 Lincoln penny, don't just toss it into your change jar or spend it without a second thought. Take a moment to look closely. Examine the details, the color, the shine, and the mint mark. You could be holding a piece of history, a coin that connects you to the legacy of Abraham Lincoln and the rich tradition of American coinage. From its intricate design to its rare errors and impressive auction prices, the 1977 Lincoln 1-cent penny continues to captivate collectors around the world. It's more than just a coin. It's a story of craftsmanship, chance, and the enduring value of small treasures. Every coin has a tale to tell, and the 1977 penny's story reminds us that even the tiniest pieces of metal can hold immense worth when we look a little closer. We're going to explore the amazing world of the 1981 Lincoln penny, a coin that might just be worth far more than its face value. So sit back, because you're about to discover everything there is to know about this extraordinary piece of American coinage history. The year 1981 was an important one in the timeline of U.S. coinage. It was a transitional period sitting right at the edge of major change. The Lincoln 1-cent coin had already been in circulation for more than 7 decades, since its debut in 1909. But 1981 marked the end of an era. It was the final full year that the U.S. Mint struck the traditional copper composition penny before shifting to a new metal formula in 1982. That single fact alone makes the 1981 penny historically significant and a must-have for collectors who love owning a piece of the last of its kind. Let's start with the design. The familiar face of Abraham Lincoln. The portrait on the obverse was originally designed by Victor David Brenner, one of the most respected engravers in American history. His design, introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, remains iconic to this day. On the 1981 penny, you'll notice Lincoln's detailed bust facing right, with the word liberty to his left and the phrase "In God We Trust" arching gracefully above his head. The date 1981 appears to the right, along with a small mint mark below it, either a D.S. or no mint mark at all, depending on where the coin was produced. The reverse side features the equally well-known Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. This image replaced the earlier wheat ears reverse in 1959. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny representation of the statue of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial, right in the center. It's a detail that often surprises people. Yes, even on something as small as a 1-cent coin, the mint took care to include that kind of artistic precision. Now, when we talk about the mint marks, this is where things get interesting. In 1981, the U.S. Mint struck Lincoln pennies at 3 locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D; and San Francisco, S. Each of these versions carries its own story and potential for value. The Philadelphia Mint produced the largest number of coins, with over 7 billion pieces released into circulation. The Denver Mint followed closely, striking around 5.4 billion coins. These massive numbers might make you think the coins are common, and in general that's true. But the true excitement lies in condition, strike quality, and certain rare varieties that slipped past the Mint's inspection point. One of the most intriguing varieties is the 1981 S-proof coin from the San Francisco Mint. Proof coins aren't made for circulation. They're specially struck using polished dies and planchets to create mirror-like finishes and sharp details. These coins were sold directly to collectors, and some of them display what's called a Type 2 mint mark. The difference between the Type 1 and Type 2 is subtle but important. Type 1 has a more blob-like S, while Type 2 shows a clearer, sharper S shape. The Type 2 variety is scarcer and commands higher value among collectors. But even among the regular circulation coins, there are errors and varieties that can dramatically boost a penny's worth. For example, some 1981 Lincoln cents have been found with double die obverse. where parts of the lettering or the date appear slightly doubled due to misalignment during the minting process. Others may have off-center strikes, die cracks, or broad strikes, all fascinating errors that collectors are willing to pay premiums for. Now let's talk about composition. The 1981 Lincoln penny was struck with a metal mixture of 95% copper and 5% zinc, the same composition used since 1962. This copper-based penny feels slightly heavier and has a warmer tone compared to the later zinc coins introduced in 1982, which contain only a thin copper coating over a zinc core. Because of rising metal prices, the cost of producing a copper penny began exceeding 1 cent by the early 1980s, a major reason why the mint decided to make the switch the following year. This means every 1981 penny you find today isn't just a coin, it's also a small piece of solid copper, a reminder of an era before cost-cutting and metal changes reshaped the look and feel of America's smallest coin. When it comes to value, condition plays a crucial role. Coins are graded based on their condition, ranging from good, heavily worn, to mint state, perfect, uncirculated. Circulated 1981 pennies, the ones you find in pocket change, usually hold only face value. However, uncirculated examples, especially those in pristine condition, can fetch impressive sums. Collectors love coins with full, sharp details, no scratches, and bright, original luster. 1981 Lincoln cent graded in mint state 67 or higher can sell for far more than you'd imagine, especially at professional auctions. Similarly, the 1981 S-proof coins, particularly the Type II variety, have been known to sell for hundreds of dollars depending on grade and appearance. And remember, not all pennies are created equal. A small difference in strike quality or die variety can make a massive difference in value. That's why coin enthusiasts often use magnifying glasses or digital microscopes to examine their coins in fine detail. A faint doubling, a misplaced mint mark, or a unique die break could mean the difference between a common coin and a collector's treasure. Let's not forget the historical backdrop of the early 1980s. The economy was in transition, inflation was high, and the value of metals was fluctuating. The decision to change the penny's composition in 1982 wasn't made lightly. For decades, the Lincoln cent had remained virtually unchanged, a symbol of stability. But by 1981, even the smallest coin in America's currency system was affected by economic pressure. That's why holding on to a 1981 penny today is like holding a piece of that turning point in U.S. monetary history. There's also an emotional connection that collectors have with the Lincoln cent. It's one of the first coins most Americans ever handle as children. It has the image of one of the nation's greatest presidents, and its design has lasted longer than any other coin currently in circulation. Collectors often describe finding rare or pristine Lincoln cents as discovering hidden gems in plain sight, a reminder that history can still be found in everyday pockets and jars. Now imagine this. You stumble upon an old coin jar in your attic, full of pennies saved over the years. Among the hundreds of coins, one 1981 penny stands out. It's shiny, uncirculated, and has a perfect strike. Maybe it even has a small die variation that went unnoticed for decades. You send it for grading, and it comes back as an exceptional specimen, the kind that collectors dream about. That single penny could be worth far more than anyone would guess, all because you took the time to look closer. That's the beauty of coin collecting. It combines history, art, and a touch of mystery. Every coin tells a story, and in the case of the 1981 Lincoln cent, that story includes craftsmanship, national pride, and the final chapter of the full copper era. How do you find out if your 1981 penny is valuable? Start by checking for its mint mark. Coins with the D or S mint marks tend to attract more interest. Next, examine its surface carefully. Look for clean edges, bright copper luster, and no major scratches. If it looks brand new, it might be uncirculated. And if you notice doubling on the date or lettering, you might just have a rare variety. If you truly believe your coin could be special, consider submitting it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. These organizations authenticate and grade coins, giving them a certified label that greatly increases collector confidence and resale value. Over time, the 1981 Lincoln penny has proven to be a fascinating coin for both beginners and seasoned numismatists. It's not just about the money. It's about the connection to American history, the art of design, and the excitement of discovering something rare where you least expect it. We're diving deep into the fascinating world of American coins, and this time, It's all about one of the most talked about pennies ever minted, the 1982 Lincoln 1-cent coin. A coin that might look ordinary, but behind its small copper shine hides a story of history, change, and an incredible collector's value. So sit tight, because this isn't just a penny. It's a piece of numismatic mystery that could be worth a surprising amount of money today. Let's rewind the clock and take a journey back to 1982, a year that changed the future of the Lincoln penny forever. It was a time of transition for the United States Mint, and the story behind this year's coin is one of the most important in modern coinage history. The 1982 penny is unlike any other because it was produced during a major shift in the way U.S. 1-cent coins were made. Before 1982, Lincoln cents were made primarily of 95% copper and 5% zinc. Copper was abundant, cheap, and gave the coins that warm reddish-brown glow that collectors love. But by the late 1970s and early 1980s, the cost of copper began to skyrocket. In fact, the price of copper became so high that the metal inside each penny was actually worth more than 1 cent itself. That meant the government was literally losing money every time it minted a penny. Something had to change, and 1982 was the year of that big change. So, the U.S. Mint made a bold decision. Switch from the traditional copper composition to a new zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. This new penny would still look the same, but it would cost much less to produce. However, because the transition didn't happen overnight, both copper and zinc pennies were struck during 1982, and they exist in multiple varieties. That's what makes this coin so special. Now let's talk about the 1982 Lincoln penny specifically, the version minted in Denver, Colorado, marked with the small d mint mark under the date. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies that year. But here's where things get really interesting. 1,982 pennies exist in 7 distinct varieties. That's right, 7. And knowing which one you have could mean the difference between a coin worth just a few cents and one worth thousands of dollars. Here's what makes the 1982 series so unique. The Mint produced pennies in both large date and small date styles, and in both copper and zinc compositions. So the varieties are 1982 large date copper, 1982 small date copper, 1982 large date zinc, 1982 small date zinc, 1982D large date copper, 1982D small date zinc, 1982D small date copper. And this last one is the rarest of them all. Yes, you heard that right. The 1982D small date copper penny is the holy grail of the 1982 series. It's a coin that wasn't supposed to exist. You see, by the time the small date dies were used at the Denver Mint, the Mint had already switched to zinc planchets for mass production. But somehow, a very small number of leftover copper planchets found their way into the minting process. And that's how this legendary error coin was born. A true transitional error, this coin is a collector's dream because it bridges 2 eras of U.S. coinage, the last breath of copper and the dawn of zinc. Now you might be wondering, how can you tell which one you have? It's simple but requires careful observation. First, look at the date on your penny. The large date version has thicker numbers, especially the 8 and the 2. The small date version looks slimmer and more refined. If you look closely at the 2, the curve and tail are slightly different. In the small date, the top of the 2 is more level with the 9, while in the large date it sits a bit higher. Next, you need to find out what metal your coin is made from. Copper pennies weigh 3.11 grams, while zinc pennies weigh 2.5 grams. The easiest way to tell is to use a precise digital scale. If your 1982D penny weighs around 3.11 grams, you might have one of those ultra-rare copper versions that collectors dream of. Imagine that a coin that most people overlook every day sitting quietly in a jar could actually be worth thousands. Over the years, several examples of the rare 1982D small date copper penny have been discovered. But make no mistake, they are incredibly scarce. Many collectors have searched for decades without ever finding one. When one finally surfaces, it instantly becomes the center of attention in the numismatic world. What makes this even more exciting is that, because of the sheer number of 1982D pennies struck, millions of people have these coins in circulation. That means there's still a chance that one of these rare copper pennies could be hiding in your loose change, a coin roll, or an old jar tucked away in your drawer. Let's talk about the coin's design, because it too carries deep symbolism. On the obverse or front side, you'll see the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. His iconic profile first appeared in 1909 to celebrate Lincoln's 100th birthday, and it has remained ever since. The word Liberty sits to the left of Lincoln's bust, while the date and mint mark are to the right. Above his head is the proud phrase, "In God We Trust." On the reverse, we see the image of the Lincoln Memorial designed by Frank Gasparo, which replaced the original wheat ears reverse in 1959. If you look closely, you can even see the tiny figure of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, one of the smallest and most fascinating details on any U.S. coin. Now let's turn to the part everyone's been waiting for, the value. What is a 1982D Lincoln penny worth today? For the regular 1982D zinc penny, it's usually only worth its face value of 1 cent, though uncirculated examples might sell for a few dollars if they're in pristine condition. The large date copper versions, while not rare, can bring slightly higher prices for collectors seeking high grades or mint state examples. However, the 1982D small date copper penny is an entirely different story. This coin is legendary among collectors because it was struck in copper when it shouldn't have been, and because only a tiny number exist, it's considered one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents ever discovered. When one appears at auction, it sparks massive excitement. In fact, one of these coins sold for an incredible sum when discovered and authenticated by grading experts. Imagine a simple penny, a coin you might have in your change, selling for enough money to buy a new car, or even pay off a small mortgage. That's the magic of numismatics, the thrill of the hunt, the surprise of finding treasure where no one expects it. Collectors always emphasize authenticity. If you believe you might have a rare 1982D small date copper penny, you should never clean or alter it. Cleaning can actually ruin its value. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges, store it safely, and get it professionally graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. Once certified, your coin's authenticity and grade will be preserved, and its market value could skyrocket. It's also worth noting that other transitional errors exist in the Lincoln penny series, but the 1982D small date copper is unique because it was the only Denver Mint penny of its kind that crossed the copper to zinc line. That's what gives it its legendary status. For coin hunters, this coin remains the ultimate challenge. Many have searched through thousands of 1982 pennies, hoping to find that rare copper treasure. It's a test of patience, luck, and passion. But for those who truly love coins, that's part of the fun. Every coin you flip, every roll you check, could be the moment you strike gold, or in this case, copper. When we look at the broader picture, the 1982 penny tells the story of American change, literally. It reflects the nation's struggle with inflation, resource management, and modernization. It also reminds us that even the smallest coin in our pocket carries history, craftsmanship, and mystery. And beyond the money, these coins connect us to a past era, to the time when families collected pennies in jars, children started their first coin albums, and history could be held between your fingers. That's the beauty of collecting coins. They're not just metal discs, they're tiny storytellers of America's journey. We're diving deep into the story of the United States of America 2006D Lincoln 1-cent penny coin. A modern coin that many people overlook, yet it holds secrets that could surprise even seasoned collectors. If you've ever thought the pennies in your pocket were worthless, think again. This particular coin has an incredible backstory, fascinating minting details, and in some cases an unbelievable value that has stunned the coin collecting community. Let's uncover every layer of this copper-plated treasure and learn why this coin, struck in 2006 at the Denver Mint, is attracting so much attention today. First, let's begin with a bit of background. The Lincoln 1-cent penny has one of the longest-running designs in American coinage history. Introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, it marked the first time a real person appeared on a U.S. coin. The design, created by Victor David Brenner, features a right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. A simple, noble image that symbolizes honesty, strength, and leadership. On the reverse, for the 2006D version, you'll still find the familiar Lincoln Memorial design. A design that had been in use since 1959, the D Mint mark under the date represents the Denver Mint, one of the two primary facilities responsible for producing circulation coins in 2006, alongside the Philadelphia Mint. The Denver Mint is known for its precise craftsmanship, yet even with advanced technology, some coins can still have unique features, minting errors, and variations that dramatically increase their value. Now, the 2006D Lincoln penny might seem ordinary at first glance. It's made mostly of zinc with a thin copper plating, a change that began in 1982 to reduce production costs. Each coin weighs around 2.5 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters. But while millions were minted, a small handful contain minting flaws or exceptional conditions that make them stand out as treasures among billions. Let's talk about how collectors view this coin. The 2006 Lincoln penny in circulated condition, meaning it has been used in everyday transactions, usually holds its face value of 1 cent. But when you move into the world of uncirculated or mint state grades, the story becomes a lot more interesting. Coins graded MS-65 or higher, especially those preserved in their original luster without any scratches or discoloration, can command much higher prices. Coin grading plays a massive role in determining a coin's value. The Sheldon scale, used by professional grading services like PCGS and NGC, ranges from 1 to 70. A coin graded 70 is considered perfect, flawless even under magnification. For the 2006 penny, examples graded between MS-67 and MS-69 are exceptionally rare and highly sought after because they represent near-perfect specimens from an era where billions of coins were mass-produced. Now, what makes this coin truly exciting isn't just its design or history, it's the rare varieties and minting errors that can turn an ordinary penny into something worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Let's explore a few of these fascinating errors. Point 1. Notable type is the double die obverse. This occurs when the coin's design is struck twice slightly out of alignment, creating a visible doubling of the letters in Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date 2006. If you spot doubling on your 2006 penny, it's worth getting it verified because these errors can fetch a premium from collectors who specialize in unique strikes. Another error to watch for is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin planchet is not properly centered in the press during minting. The result is a coin with part of the design missing on one side, and an empty space showing the blank metal. Depending on how off-center the strike is and whether the date remains visible, values can range from a few dollars to several $100s. Then there's the broad strike error, a coin struck outside the retaining collar, causing it to expand wider and flatter than normal. This type of error gives the penny an odd, stretched appearance but keeps the entire design visible. Broad strike pennies from 2006 are relatively rare, and collectors love them for their unusual look. Other exciting varieties include clipped planchets, where a small curved or straight portion of the coin is missing due to a cutting mistake during the planchet making process. Also, die cracks, raised lines on the surface caused by breaks in the minting die, can make a coin unique, and while minor ones add small premiums, large or dramatic cracks can make a coin significantly more valuable. Let's not forget about struck-through errors, where a foreign object such as a piece of cloth, grease, or even another coin comes between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving a strange impression on the coin's surface. These minting anomalies are like fingerprints of the minting process. No two are exactly alike, and collectors love them for that reason. But beyond errors, condition is everything. Coins that have been stored properly since 2006, untouched, with no fingerprints, scratches, or discoloration, are the real stars. A perfectly preserved 2006 Lincoln penny in mint state condition can be breathtaking to look at. Under the right lighting, you'll see a mirror-like red luster shining across Lincoln's portrait and the sharp, crisp details of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Coin collectors categorize color grades for copper coins into 3 types: red RD, red-brown RB, and brown BN. A full red coin, meaning 95% or more of its original red copper color remains, is always more valuable because it reflects the coin's pristine state. Over time, exposure to air, moisture, and oils from human skin causes copper to tone or darken, so keeping that bright, original red hue is rare. Another fascinating part of the 2006 penny story is how it bridges 2 eras of coin collecting: the older generation that admired the classic Lincoln Memorial design, and the modern collectors who would soon welcome the 4 special Lincoln bicentennial designs in 2009. The 2006 penny is one of the last few years to carry the Lincoln Memorial reverse, making it a piece of history marking the end of a 50-year design legacy. Now, how can you tell if your 2006 penny might be worth more than just a cent? Start by examining it under a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. Check for doubling on the letters, off-center strikes, or any unusual patterns. Then, evaluate its color and luster. If it looks brand new, consider having it graded by a professional service. The cost of grading is often worth it if the coin has potential, because a certified grade gives it legitimacy and makes it easier to sell. Collectors and investors alike look for third-party verified grades because they remove the guesswork. So where do people find these coins? Believe it or not, many collectors discovered rare 2006 Lincoln pennies right in their spare change jars, old bankrolls, or even forgotten coin collections passed down through families. Some coin hunters even buy sealed mint sets from 2006, hoping to find top-grade examples straight from the original government packaging. Over the years, auctions have revealed some truly remarkable sales of 2006 Lincoln pennies. High-grade examples have appeared at major coin shows and online bidding platforms, drawing intense interest from collectors. Coins graded MS-68 or MS-69 have been known to sell for hundreds, and in some rare cases, for more when they exhibit exceptional luster, strike quality, and eye appeal. But the most astonishing part of all is that one incredibly rare 2006 Lincoln penny, featuring a unique minting anomaly and perfect condition, has been recorded to sell for an unbelievable amount, a figure that transformed a simple 1-cent piece into a collector's dream. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that millions of people have overlooked only to realize it could be worth a small fortune. That's what makes coin collecting so exciting. It's not just about money, but about the thrill of discovery, the beauty of craftsmanship, and the connection to America's rich history. Every Lincoln penny tells a story of progress, perseverance, and pride. The 2006 version represents the modern chapter of that tale. Minted in an era of advanced technology, yet still capable of producing hidden treasures that defy expectations. Whether you're a casual collector or a serious numismatist, this coin serves as a reminder that even in our everyday pocket change, there are still mysteries waiting to be uncovered. So the next time you get a handful of pennies, don't rush to spend them or toss them aside. Take a closer look. You might just find one of these extraordinary 2006 Lincoln pennies shining among the rest, a small but powerful piece of American history with a hidden secret. And now for the moment you've been waiting for, the incredible value. Among all the known examples and rare finds, one particular 2006 Lincoln 1-cent penny coin reached a mind-blowing sale price of $12,240.